And so just to, again, review, I know that you had no bleeds on the clinical trial, so you were part of this group. We talked about having patients with zero bleeds, and so it was nearly 60% of the patients in both the once weekly and the once every other week that had zero bleeds. And so that must resonate with you.
Oh, absolutely, because it's funny how we define a bleed, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure that there were bleeds, they just never turned into hemophiliac bleeds, right? Because they just ended up fixing themselves like any other normal person. But yeah, nothing ever turned into something I would have done in an infusion on.
So so you really had no treated bleeds.
Nothing.
No. Do you think that affected your quality of life? Or, how did it affect your life?
It's an interesting question. It affected my life in that for the first time, I didn't have to think as much before I did something. And a good example of that is on last Thursday, I coached my boys in basketball, and the other coach who I coached was not able to be there. So it was me and an odd number of kids, and it's hard to play basketball with an odd number of kids. So I stepped in. And I said to our tallest kid, I said, look, kid, I'm still taller than you. I'm playing center because it's zone defense, and I know I'm not moving much if I'm playing center, right? So I played center, and I still had to get up and down the court in some sort of relative decent speed. But, you asked me to do this a year and a half, 2 years ago, no way. They're just playing odd numbers. But this time I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. Let's jump into this, and let's see what happens. And, I was able to do that.
Do you wish that you had known about this or had this drug when you were growing up? Do you think it would have made a difference?
Oh yeah, probably 3 surgeries less of a difference, maybe more. I don't think I would have had the target joints if that was the case.
Is there still things that you struggle with?
So, hemophilia related, the fused ankles is still a pain. Going up and down stairs is not the easiest thing I look forward to, because you can't bend your ankles. So to try going up the stairs walking on your heels takes some acclimation, and at the same time, the whole ITP thing and the weight gain never really helps. So still suffering and still dealing with those ramifications, combined with the hemophilia, I think is just kind of all related and makes those things difficult. But, in the scheme of things, if that's my biggest problem, that's not a problem.
Any final words of wisdom or advice for patients that are newly diagnosed, or actually in this case it would be moms that have children that are newly diagnosed or babies that are newly diagnosed?
Well, I don't know if this particular medication is available for infants. And
it actually was approved, so the FDA label was for adults as well as children, newborns.
Then my advice is get them on this medication, because if they're on this medication, I don't see that they don't have at least 80 to 90% of a normal life from day one. And that's huge. I mean, that's a game changer. Things like, camping, hiking, that's the fun. Like, I'm not doing that, no way. Skiing, not happening, right? But, if an infant or a child is brought onto this kind of medication, or maybe something better in the future, then hemophilia, I think, really becomes more of a non-issue.
So, for patients, there are a number of things to consider before starting a new medication, and what's important is for the physician and the patient or mother, father, parents to have a long, detailed conversation about what's important. Patient preferences is a key factor in making a decision, as well as patient goals, family goals. And in adult patients who have comorbidities such as yourself, target joints, things like that have to be taken into consideration. And I think that...
But if you can avoid the target joints, just avoid them and take the medication. And I mean, the only other parting advice I would have is somebody recently told me that a lot of hemophiliacs like to be defined by their hemophilia. And I guess I would say that if you are newly diagnosed, or like I said, the mother's newly diagnosed, I don't know that I like that. I don't think we should be defined by the diseases that we have and those items. And we are made from the sum of challenges and the sum of good things in our lives. Let that define you. Don't let hemophilia be a definition of your life.